here we go. Let's see this thing. So this is the eBay special right here. $30 I got this thing for. So we'll see if it wants to work at all. The biggest complaint I already have is how long it took to get here. Maybe 3 weeks, but I'm happy that's here now. I can't wait to install it. It does feel a little flimsy. It's eBay. It's kind of to be expected. Alright, so I'm going to take out the stock e-brake here. Because if you look at it, it doesn't do anything, partially because the cable's not attached. But I actually did hook up the cable and it still didn't work. So, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this thing out of there. Because like, these are kind of weird. It's probably held in with like snap rings or something. I don't feel like screwing with that. So I'm just going to take the angle grinder, cut right down in here. Alright, so that was a little bit of a nuisance to cut, but I got it. Alright, so I cut that a little bit and then I realized I could actually just pull that bowl out. So this comes right out now. Alright, so I've got my Hydro E here. I flipped the handle around, so I'll pull it like this instead of up. That's where I want to mount it, kind of like that, I think, or maybe even a little higher. So I'm going to try to take a measurement. So I got to make a big bracket that's going to go down there, support this thing. Alright, so I got this thing into place. I just mocked it up with a couple pieces of wood. And I just put a screw down so I can get a feel for like how it's actually going to be, kind of. It actually took me kind of a while to get this to a spot where I was happy with it. So I wanted to be able to shift good. And I didn't care so much about the passenger seat, but I don't want it to be, you know, unrideable and have the thing right in the middle there. So it's really good here. I like it. I feel like I could switch from the wheel to this easy enough. There wasn't enough room to have it on this side of the wheel in between the shifter because it's a pretty big wheel in this car. So, but I think that's the best spot. So I'm going to take this all apart. I'm going to weld a flat piece in there, and then I'm going to weld another piece on top, kind of like a T, and or it won't even be a T. It'll be on the same angle as this, so I can bolt it down to that. Although, shit, I don't know if I might not leave it like that because I can't use those heated controls. Not like the heat doesn't work anyway, but alright, so I got it up a little bit higher. That's where I'm going to put it. And I'm going to just mount it just a little bit higher than it actually is, because that way I can still make these go up and down. So I'm going to make it 6.5 inches tall. So I'm just going to make a flat plate that goes 6.5 inches up. Alright, so I'm cutting all the pieces out with an angle grinder. Actually, it's only going to be 2 pieces. Since this thing stopped working, I need to get another $12 angle grinder or Harbor Freight to fix it. It's harder to make square cuts, so this is what I did. I just clamped a piece so that I could just cut right against it. And I think it worked pretty well. Let's see. Looks pretty square to me, so I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to make this 6.5 inches. Make another cut. Alright, I got my pieces cut out, my holes drilled. So I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm going to weld this like that. I'm going to make sure it's square up and down. So I'm going to clamp it up before I weld it, and I'm going to just give it a couple of tacks and then see how it fits in the car. Alright, so I tacked this up, and then I looked at it, and it seems to fit the way I want it in the car. The first time the angle was too big, or it was too great of an angle, so it didn't work. But now I'm going to weld the rest of this up, and I'm going to, when I do it, I'm going to clamp this square to it to keep it from bending, which it looks like it's already done, I guess. So I'm going to try to keep it from bending anymore. bad job welding on this side, so I kind of ground it down a little bit. That's not my usual way. I don't like grinding down welds. I feel like that's taking the cheap way out, the easy way out. Both of these welds. That one actually came up pretty good, but now that's ground down, it kind of looks like shit. Luckily, that's going to be on the underside, so you won't really ever see that, but I'm still kind of disappointed with how that looks, to be honest. But it's nice and strong. It's not going anywhere. That's kind of what's important. So it's going to go in here pretty much just like that. Hydro is going to get bolted to it. I'm going to need to take that grinder and just grind some of this down so it's a nice surface that welds good to it. And so I'm going to do that real quick. That should be good to weld that thing to. So like an idiot, I was like, oh, I'm gonna move the seats back, but I realized the seats are already all the way back, so I don't think I'm moving them anywhere. I'm just gonna tack it in place. Hopefully it'll be good. Perfect. These still work if I want them to. That's a little ugly over to the right, but the rest of that's good. That one is real pretty for that crappy MIG. These are like the best welds I've ever done, which is important because I want this thing not going anywhere. And it's got a little bit of wiggle, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. Alright, so I got it installed. No, I didn't get it installed. I got it mounted. And I still have to wait for a fitting to show up for this. There's only a single brake line that goes to the back brakes. It tees off in the back, and look at it. It runs right through the middle of the car. So I don't have to drill holes or anything. I just have to cut it in one spot. Probably under the seat here. And then I'll just cut the line, run, you know, a line in and then a line out. And then that'll be it. I'm gonna definitely clean up those welds with a wire brush. I think I'm gonna try to spray paint that little stand thing black. I just put 2 bolts in it for now. I probably won't use these ones either. They're kind of junk. They're like flathead screws. I don't like those so much, but these heat controls still work if I want them to. It's a little more wobbly than I'd like it to be. I think just this piece of metal's got a little bit of a bend to it, but it's okay. It's not going anywhere from me yanking it. But this is gonna be sick. Alright, so I took the brake off and then I just spray painted this. Figured I didn't need to go crazy. I felt spray paint would be fine. So it's drying right now. I'm gonna give that a little while. I'm probably gonna put this little middle carpet piece back in. Okay, so the hydraulic e-brake didn't have, I couldn't find the right size fitting anywhere. Trying to make my own, which would be easy if I had a metal lathe or a milling machine. But as you can see, I don't have one of those. So what I'm going to do is I drilled a hole in this so that bolt's nice and snug, because it needs to be pretty damn straight, and drill a hole through there. Size of this brake line is 3/16 line. I got a 3/16 bit. So if it doesn't work, I got a couple extras to try it again, so hopefully it will work. Alright, what I did here was took a measurement of this, and then I divided that number in half to whatever it was, I can't quite remember. And then I just used it to scribe almost a star in there, so that's how I know that's dead center. And I'm going to take this automatic center punch, make sure I get that right in the middle, and that'll be a good spot to start drilling. Okay, so I'm not sure I did a very good job explaining what's going on with this thing. So I went to my local auto parts store and we tried like every fitting in the store and couldn't find one that fit this side. We found one that went in this side. So I was pretty sure I figured out what size it was, and then I ordered what I thought it was online. I was wrong. It actually is a, I can't even remember, 7/16 20 thread, and they had 7/16 24, but that was, and so they had the bolts in the store. That's how we figured out what it was. We got that bolt to thread in, just because we were trying to figure out the thread pattern. And there's a dude that was in there, some random guy, and he was like, "Oh, well, why don't you just drill a hole in it and, you know, countersink the end, it'll work the same." I was a little skeptical, even though I've been to school for manufacturing. I don't have really the proper tools here. But my drill press seemed to work just fine, and hopefully this works. Again, this is not what I'm trying to do a good job on this car, but I think that's going to work. Alright, so I'm trying to bend this by hand because I didn't feel like buying one of those pipe benders, so I've got this exhaust flange. It's actually working pretty well. I'm just kind of bending it around that. So I really don't want to kink. I don't want any kinks in this because then it'll be useless. Came out pretty good though, I think. So that's going to be how I'm doing all my bends. Okay, so that's my pipe cutter. It's pretty big. Well, obviously it's not going to fit down here, but luckily there's already a union down in there, so I'm just going to disconnect it at that. And probably make a mess of brake fluid in here, but that's alright. Alright, so disconnected that. It's making a mess, and then I just turn this up, and actually this union, same size as these fittings I got, so I'm going to leave that one on there, and then just drop this one in. And I need to put a flare on this. Got my line flared. Got this thing on there. Seats in there nice and good. So I'm going to drop this thing on and try to get it into here, which is leaking just everywhere. So I got to get that on right now. Okay, so and then I used this flaring tool that I got. Basically, you just clamp the piece in, like that. You tighten both sides down, and this thing fits on here, and you just twist it down. It's kind of hard. It's not that. I mean, you got to twist it kind of hard, and then it makes a nice flare. And I realized I actually only have to make one of those. I just have to make the one that goes right there. So I'm going to use this piece, and then I'm going to just use it up to this line. So that should work fine. Alright, so I bent the last piece. Came out pretty good actually for just using that exhaust flange. And it's going to go in here. I need to connect these two with it. Alright, so I got that piece of line hooked up, and then this thing's all good to go, so it works pretty well. I need to bleed the brakes still, but it does work, so when I bleed the brakes I think it'll work better. Alright, so now what I gotta do is bleed the brakes. I topped off the brake fluid, and now I just gotta jack up the back, take the tires off, and bleed the brakes out. Alright, so I was doing all the, I started to bleed the brakes, and when I started stepping on the brakes, all of these started leaking. So my crappy little flaring tool did a terrible job. So I went down to Advanced Auto Parts, rented one of these. That's what I should have done to start. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but so I got the double flaring tool, and it seems like it's working a lot better. Putting much nicer flares on the brake line, as you can see. Alright, so I'm doing the one-man brake bleeding method. So I put this hose on the little bleeder valve, and it runs up here. You have to make sure the hose runs above it if you're doing it with just one person. And then it runs down in this bottle, which is full of brake fluid. And you have to make sure that that's down into the brake fluid or else it won't work. So then you gotta loosen that bleeder valve and then start pumping the brakes. I didn't see much air in that one. That one went pretty quick. I just pumped the brakes like 8 or 9 times. Should be plenty for this one. Then you want to keep checking your master cylinder and make sure it's full of brake fluid and keep filling it up as you go. Alright, so the Hydro E is all done. Brakes are bled. Works pretty good. Definitely locks up the brakes. I wanted to take this out and rip it around a little bit, see how well it, really works. But the bug is running really, really bad right now, so I got to do some work and try to figure out exactly what's wrong with it. And hopefully I'll be able to take this thing out and do some skids pretty soon. Alright, so that's going to be it for this week. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more of this build. And yeah, we'll have a new video next Tuesday. So thanks for watching.